Welcome to this edition of Labor Vision. I'm Bob Delaney, Executive Director of the Institute for Labor Studies and Research. Labor Vision, a production of the Institute, focuses on topics of importance to working Rhode Island families. We hope you enjoy this evening's edition.
Good evening, and welcome to this edition of Labor Vision. Tonight, my guests are Zoya Saitlin from Connecting for Children and Families and Ann Quintero from the United Way. Zoya, Ann, I think this is going to be one of the most important programs that we do this year because it's about an incredibly great program that nobody knows about. So it's called the VITA program. And Ann, tell us what VITA is.
VITA is the acronym for Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, and it's a national program that's run ostensibly through the IRS, and United Way of Rhode Island is the local state sponsor of the program in conjunction with our partner, our generous partner of Citizens Bank. And United Way provides a $210,000 grant, and with that $210,000 we fund quite a few VITA sites throughout the state. I think this year we're going to have 23 VITA sites.
Terrific.
And it's even more terrific than that because we had 13,000 people come last year to have their taxes done for free. It's a free tax preparation. And through that, they returned into the pockets of the state of Rhode Island over $23 million.
Amazing.
And to the people who needed it the most. So that money went for families, it went to for people to buy homes for the first time, it went to buy clothing for children, repair cars, pay back debt, and all sorts of wonderful things, including savings accounts. So most of it goes back into the state economy, and unfortunately, you're right, most people don't know about it. I think 1 out of 5 people who are eligible are aware of the program.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
We could get the ballpark.
Yes. Yes, we certainly could.
So tell us who is eligible, Zoya.
To be eligible for the VITA program, any individual or family whose income is $55,000 or less can participate in the VITA program. Families can come in, learn about different credits that are out there for low to middle income taxpayers, earned income credit, child tax credit, education credits, savings credits, and we're, as preparers, are able to maximize their refund and provide them the best service that they can get.
Terrific. You guys do great work, too.
You know, most tax preparers don't put out there that people are eligible for all of these
I was
credits.
going to ask you that question. Tell us about that.
It's a different page for every tax return, for every credit. So the earned income tax credit is one page, child tax credit is another page, education tax credit is yet another page. And places that most people frequent to have their taxes done, the fast places where they can go and get their taxes done, charge per page. So if an indigent person or a low income person goes to such a place and they ask about it, they'll say, well, you know, yes, we can do that for you, but it'll cost you more money. And that will cost you even more money. And child tax credit, that will cost you even more money. So they dissuade people from doing it because they're interested in the quick in and out, get your taxes done and leave to make the maximum amount of money. And we focus, the VITA program is especially created to focus on the earned income tax credit, and that's the country's single largest anti-poverty program and most successful anti-poverty program. It returns millions of dollars back into people's pockets.
So you're the good guys and they're the
Yes.
bad guys.
Yes.
They're just using this to make money and to push people in and out. And think about all the funds that the state's losing at the same time, too, besides the fact that people, most importantly, can get these money and use it for their own families. So how many people, did you say again, take advantage of the program?
Well, last year it was just a hair under 13,000 people. My goal is to bring that number up to at least 14,000 this year, but only 1 out of every 5 people that are eligible in Rhode Island take advantage of the program or even know about the program. And sadly, there are about 62% of the people in Rhode Island whose median income is $38,000 or less. So 61.5% of the working people in Rhode Island are actually eligible for this program.
So if people go to other tax preparers, they may not know about the Earned Income Tax Credit, and you mentioned that they're not going to tell the people about it. What kind of I mean, we're having a program today about it. I haven't seen too much advertised in papers or whatnot about it, or anything on a billboard. What's the outreach, and who do you think is responsible for that outreach? Who should be responsible for the outreach? I mean, we're doing what we can here, but can you think of other individuals or other organizations of the state or whatever that should be more involved with an outreach on this?
Absolutely. To get back to your first point about the qualifications of the preparers that are involved in the VITA program, the major focus of the VITA program is to ensure that we have qualified IRS certified preparers that are well versed in all of the credits that low to middle income taxpayers qualify for. So extensive training happens prior to the opening of the sites, and all of the reviewers and preparers are knowledgeable about all of the credits that the taxpayers that come through our doors are qualified for. The outreach process for the VITA program in terms of volunteers and also letting the word out to the eligible taxpayers starts as early as October. We reach out to, we start with child care centers, school districts, folks in the community, faith organizations, any partner that we can think of that caters to the low to middle income population, we do the outreach for.
That's terrific. And how do you find your angels who go out there and do all this work for you? What's your outreach to get the people to do the work, the actual good work that you do?
That's a really great question, and I'm really glad you asked that. Recently, Zoya and I have put our heads together, and we worked with the Dean of the School of Business at Rhode Island College, Dean Jeffrey Mello, and he set up a meeting for us with some students. He invited students to come to an informational seminar for VITA that Zoya and I conducted about 2 months ago. And we expected maybe 15 to 20 people to show up. And we went into the room, we walked into the room, and the room was so packed, there were people sitting on the floor, and they were standing around the room. So there were about 100 people in the room. And we thought they were there for the free pizza, but apparently the pizza was gone, and they stayed for the full 2 or 2.5 hours we were there. And at the end, we asked them, they asked us questions, and we said, okay, this is great. You came, you sat for the whole program, you asked great questions. And Zoya said to them, how many of you were interested in volunteering? And every single hand went up. And they all followed through. We had to run special training sessions just for the students at Rhode Island College. And one of those students came up to us at the end, and he said, I'm a student here, but I'm the Veteran Services Coordinator for all the CCRI campuses, and I'd love for you to come and talk to us at CCRI. So we've done that, and we're running special VITA sites. We call them satellite sites. We're doing 2 at the Warwick campus and 2 at the Lincoln campus for veterans and any other members of the CCRI community who are eligible and interested. And we spoke with one of the assistant directors there, and he sent out an email to nearly 4,000 people, people who are students, current students, past students, employees. He just sent it out to everybody in his database. And we're already starting to get informational questions, and we're getting people to volunteer from that. So it's an amazing response.
Good heavens, how many volunteers do you have, and how many do you need? How many would you like to have, ideally?
We would like to have 1 volunteer for every person coming to get their taxes done. But
the more the better.
The more the better, yeah. The more
volunteers, the more we're able to.
Well, that was a great idea to go to the university for that.
You know, we're running satellite sites. I'm doing them at labor union halls every Wednesday evening this year, starting at the end of January, running through the middle of April. So every Wednesday night we'll be at a different labor hall throughout the state of Rhode Island. And Zoya is doing satellite sites at CCRI and at Rhode Island College. And we have people from the Providence VITA Coalition doing satellite sites at places like the Rhode Island Free Clinic. There are all sorts of things popping up everywhere. So we're going to be doing VITA in very non-traditional fashion this year.
And volunteers get trained and they
Yes.
get certified.
They're IRS trained and certified,
IRS trained and
which is-
certified, and they're very knowledgeable in all aspects
Yes.
of tax preparation and review.
That's great. So they're educated and they know what to do, and they're committed. Obviously, they get paid for this.
No.
They don't.
The V
They
is
don't get paid, and they do it anyway.
Volunteers don't get
You know,
paid.
that's wonderful.
That is
That
wonderful.
makes
It
it
is.
even better.
Yeah.
So let's assume for a moment that Jimmy Riley wants to take advantage of this program. So how do I determine? I live in Providence. How do I determine where I'm going to go to have my taxes done?
Well, you're going to call 211.
211.
And
Okay.
that's just
That
three
starts
numbers
with
on the
211.
phone. 211, and you call 211 and say to the operator, I would like to have my taxes done. I live in Providence. What's available? They will ask when you'd like to have your taxes done, what day of the week, what time of day. They'll give you all of the locations in Providence that are open during those times and on those days, and whether or not they take appointments or walk-ins. And if they'll give you the phone number, the address, and even bus routes and how to get there if you need that information. So 211 is really the hub of VITA for us, for Rhode Island, because 211 is the place to go to ask all of the questions. They know what to bring, they know who's eligible, they know where
So
to go.
what is 211? Where is 211?
211 is located at United Way.
At United Way.
211 is the state's social service one-stop shop. They provide information for example, if you're looking for an apartment and you're looking for an affordable place to live, every week they have an updated list of every affordable apartment available in the state of Rhode Island for rent. They have all of the social service agencies on speed dial. They have an organization that's specifically for senior citizens that's called The Point, that's an offshoot of 211, that provides all of the social service information to senior citizens.
That's a great
Yeah,
program.
it's amazing. Yes,
That's
it is.
really, really
It's
nice.
amazing.
Great work you do over the United Way.
Thank you.
All right, so I've called 211, and they're going to tell me to bring certain things with me. Is that what I'm going to need? And what am I going to need to bring with me?
Sure. So being a partner with IRS, there are certain requirements that taxpayers need to bring with them in order for us to be able to prepare the most complete and accurate tax return. So Social Security cards for the parents and the children and anybody else that's a qualified dependent that the taxpayers wish to put on their tax return, ID, a license or a state ID for all of the adults, birth certificates for any children that are being claimed on the tax return, as well as all income sources, so something like a W-2, interest from the bank, dividends, if there are any capital gains statements from the banks. If someone is self-employed and they have their small business, when you would need that information, unemployment, IRA distributions, pension distributions, any sources of income, as well as if someone is a homeowner, we would need that type of information to be able to deduct or write off anything that will lower their tax liability and maximize their refund. So again, the point of this program is, again, all of the preparers and reviewers are knowledgeable, and we want to do the best possible job we can to file a complete and accurate tax return and to ensure that every taxpayer that comes through the VITA doors gets the best possible refund or minimization of their liability that we can do.
And also, every single VITA site that we have has someone there that's bilingual.
Great. Let me ask you this. Yesterday, they signed a new tax bill in Washington, D.C. Is that going to have any affectation regarding this particular activity?
Not yet.
Not for the 2017
No,
tax
not yet,
year,
not yet.
no. But going forward, Connecting for Children and Families, and I will have conversations on how we can have workshops to ensure that taxpayers learn about changes for next year.
You know what? I think you just gave me a new show for probably in February.
Great.
Maybe we should have you come back and we'll talk about the changes regarding your specific industry
Sure.
and regarding the great
Yeah.
work that you do. Anna Zoya, thank you so much for the
Thank
work
you
that
so
you
much for
do,
having us,
and
Jim.
we're delighted to
Thank you.
have you. And folks,
Thank you.
take advantage of this program. call 211. You'll be lucky you did. You have no idea what can happen. You'll be spending money on paying your bills, and this is stuff that you wouldn't even have thought you were going to get. And that's it for this edition of Labor Vision. We'll see you next time. Good evening and welcome to this edition of Labor Vision. I'm Jim Riley. I'll be your host this evening. Over the last year and a half or so, the Occupational and Environmental Health Center of Rhode Island has worked to bring awareness to one of the most significant health and safety concerns facing residents of Rhode Island, the condition of our public schools. As a result, a new group has been created called Fix Our Schools Now, a coalition for healthy school environments. My guest today is Lisa Nelson, who is the outreach coordinator for the Occupational and Environmental Healthcare Center of Rhode Island and a significant member of Fix Our Schools Now. Lisa, we are delighted to have you here today. You've been a real leader on this hot button issue. Lots of people are talking to you about this. I know you've been going to a lot of different places and different states and around the country talking about this issue. The governor's involved in this issue. The General Assembly's involved in this issue. Cities and towns, school departments, parents, students, and support staffs, and not just here in Rhode Island, but in every state in the union, where we find that our schools, on the average, like in Rhode Island, are over 60 years old and crumbling and falling apart and making for not such a healthy environment for kids to learn and for teachers to work in. So tell me about Fix Our Schools Now, this coalition, this fabulous coalition, and how the group got started.
Well, we found out about a report a few years ago that was going to talk about the condition of Rhode Island's public school buildings. We had heard about an older report, and we didn't expect much of the information to change. It didn't look good. But we wanted to make sure we were ready for this new report, for the new information. So we took our time and we had meetings with people who were interested, people who were involved, and people who cared about how our buildings affected health, how they affect academic performance, and how they affect our communities as a whole. It was important for us to be ready so that when the report of our school building conditions came out, we were able to explain what it really meant.
Mm-hmm. So who were some of the individuals and the organizations at these meetings? Tell me about this coalition.
Well, of course, we met with students, teachers, staff members to hear about the conditions that they were dealing with on a daily basis. But we also took it a step further and we met with engineers and architects. Those with a background in public health or finance, to not only learn what a school building should look like to foster health and increase academic performance, but also to save money or create energy efficient measures to make the health environment in the building even better.
Mm-hmm. And what sort of things did that group hear about? What did we all hear about?
Unfortunately, some of the things we heard about weren't very good. For example, we learned that when it rains, several teachers have to put buckets out to catch the leaks from the ceilings in the middle of their classrooms. In fact, on a few occasions, ceilings have fallen in during school days. Oh. Vents are rusted, pipes are old, and windows don't work. In addition, there are several students who have explained that in the warmer months, it's extremely difficult to concentrate when you are on the third floor of your school in a classroom without air conditioning. It's incredibly distracting, and it's something that the students, teachers, and staff not only deal with, but can't seem to break through to the rest of the community as an urgent issue. So when we continue to have those meetings to prepare ourselves to explain the importance of this issue, as well as how to fix it when the report was released, we realized that we were creating a place where everything was in one spot. This information that we were garnering from all of these fantastic resources was compiled into one location.
So can you explain a little more? What do you mean by putting all of this info in one place, in one spot?
The Fix Our Schools Coalition eliminated information silos about this issue specifically. Not only do we have Department of Health officials who were telling us that the asthma rate in Rhode Island among children is 40% higher than the national average. We've got architects who have explained to us that reflective paint not only saves money and energy, but is better for illuminating your workspace. It improves academic performance and health. Information like that we were getting from these resources that we were working with and listening to has provided us with one single location for anybody else to learn what we've learned. We became the central location for data, resources, and ideas specifically related to this issue of our school infrastructure. And after several meetings over several months, we wanted to share what we learned with the public in Rhode Island. So we held a public forum. It was comprised of 2 panels. The first talked about why indoor school environments matter, not only to your health, but to academic performance. And after that, we had a second panel that talked specifically about funding options, ideas, specific to Rhode Island, but also what other states have done, not only with specific funding mechanisms, but ideas about focusing on energy.
And I've been to a couple of those meetings, and I noticed that the treasurer of the state of Rhode Island, Seth Magaziner, who I think is doing a terrific job, is also, he seems to be very much involved in this, and he seems to be very, very well educated about it, and he brings a sense of management almost to it too. And what's Seth actually up to? Why is this so important to him, and why does he seem to have become so adept at what the problems are and whatnot?
He was a teacher. Before he was the treasurer in Rhode Island, he was a teacher in New Orleans and experienced firsthand what happens when you have no air conditioning in the hot months at the beginning or end of a school year, and you're trying to teach students in that kind of environment. It's difficult for them to concentrate, but it also creates a sense of self where the students realize that if the adults in my community are willing to let me sit in this kind of environment and be hot and unable to learn, they must not think that what goes on in these buildings is very important. And I think the treasurer has found that not only is that an unacceptable feeling for students to have, it's something that adults can do something about, and it's about time that we do.
Parents care about the health of their children. They certainly do at home. They try to provide them with a healthy environment to live in, and it's disappointing that they're sending their children to schools that are on the average 60 years old and haven't kept up, or just haven't been able to afford it, or didn't know it was happening until it became the real problem it is. And we find these things out by finding out that, hey, by the way, a lot of kids are getting asthma. Why are they getting asthma? They're getting asthma because of what's going on at home. They're getting asthma for what's going on in the community. They're getting asthma because of what's going on in their schoolroom. And the air quality, of course, is very important too. So how can people learn more about this besides, and by one other thing too, we have the task force. Can you tell us about the task force?
Sure.
Yeah.
The task force was put into place by Governor Raimondo, and Treasurer Magaziner co-chaired it along with Education Commissioner Wagner.
And was this after, I believe that there was an older study that was called by the Department of Education some years ago.
Correct.
And that was a really bad report. And then Governor Raimondo, after seeing that report, ordered her own study. And this came about as a result of the horrible findings in that. So we have a task force now.
That's correct. And the task force met over the course of a couple months and discussed similar things to what the Fix Our Schools Coalition discussed, with significant help from industry leaders in Rhode Island, construction, education, nonprofit, student-oriented. And they came together and developed several findings and recommendations. That's available on their website, treasury.gov. There's a specific website for the task force, and you can read the meeting minutes as well as look at the recommendations that were proposed and provided to the governor. Something that's interesting about that is that even though that task force is no longer meeting, much of the information that is from those meetings, Fix Our Schools has incorporated some of, as well as additional information from our public forum, into a miniature presentation. We tried to boil down the information that we learned over a significant period of time and make it more digestible and more accessible to any community members who are interested in it. So it's a presentation talking about how indoor environments affect your students, your teachers, not only their health, but their academic performance. And also, After that, we talk about the funding mechanisms that are available. Those presentations we've actually been able to provide to several different audiences since we developed it, including the policy committee of the Providence School Department.
Terrific. So how can people learn more about this? And maybe they want to see the presentation or they have questions about it.
Sure. I want to make a good point. The presentations will not be emailed or sent out to the public. We want to meet with you. We want to answer your questions. So even though we've got a PowerPoint presentation, we want to make sure that we are meeting with you and answering any concerns you have about the information we're providing. So to that end, we are happy to schedule times for these presentations. They last about 15 minutes, and we provide all the information that we've discussed and then some.
We're doing it the old-fashioned way.
Absolutely.
Face to face.
And to find us, you can locate us on Facebook and Twitter, as well as an email address, which is foscoalition@gmail.com. In order to schedule a presentation, ask additional questions, or even get some resources and learn where we've gotten ours.
Great. Lots of folks out there concerned about their kids, want them to have best education. And if they watch this program, if they don't know already, they're going to be worried. And they're thinking, well, okay, what you guys are doing is terrific, and we're sure that the governor's involved in it, and Seth Magaziner, and the school committees, and the parents, and everybody. But we seem to be doing a lot with Fixed Our Schools now. What's our next steps, and how do our next steps relate to the concerns that the typical parent has in Rhode Island?
Part of that is talking to the parents. We want to speak to parents in a local community, parent-teacher organizations. Sometimes it's just a lack of awareness, not only of the problem itself, but how significantly it affects their students. The next phase is generating awareness and making sure that not only local parents and teachers know, but the entire state as a whole, even if you don't have students in class, that you know that this is an important, critical issue to start discussing.
Okay, terrific. If I'm a concerned parent, and I not only want to go to meetings or whatever. If I want to just like put something together with a neighborhood coalition group, or maybe our kids go to an elementary school. I remember when my stepdaughter was at school, my wife was very, very friendly with all the other mothers of all the girls in the class, and they used to do a lot of things together. So, we can have these groups that, like the Fix Our Schools now, and the studies that are going on through the governor's office, and the school departments and parents and whatnot. But what about the smaller scale stuff of people getting together themselves and starting their own little Fix Our Schools Now coalitions to bring it to their own communities, to let them know how important it is to them, and to go to their school boards directly and say, hey, look, we can do. How can we help them as well?
If they contact us, we'll be happy to walk them through several of the steps that we've already undertaken. Not only boiling down our information into digestible and understandable quick points, but communicating with the particular community involved about what their specific concerns are. This is a statewide issue, but the problems aren't the same in every city and town. It's important to recognize that a one-size-fits-all approach will not fix this. We need to engage community members and parents, as well as students, industry leaders, to identify the specific concerns in each community and fix it the right way.
Has the new school, there has been some new school construction in Rhode Island, has that lived up to the standards set by what we know from these two studies?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because
Can you give us an example of something like that's been built? I understand there's been a school built in Providence and one in down in Newport.
Yes.
That has all the new different kinds of air and quality and water quality. Met schools.
The Pell Elementary School in Newport was the last brand new construction in the state of Rhode Island, and it's been performing beautifully.
Yeah.
We've gotten rave reviews from everyone who's been attending.
And kids like going there too, don't they?
I've heard they do. I've heard they enjoy it very much.
And like the debate school in Providence, where they have the highest amount of kids showing up for school on a regular basis, I'm sure when you have these kind of great programs where you care about the kids and you're building the school knows, and making that environment so much nicer for everyone, that the kids will want to go to school. We've got a great new school to go to.
Absolutely.
It's not the old-fashioned brick and mortar schools that I went to, and they're still going to today. But gee, it was great to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you so much for the wonderful work that you do.
Thank you.
I mean, it's a hot button issue, and you've been very, very out front about this in the state. And I know that leaders in a lot of different organizations in the community and in the state are happy for the great work that you've done.
Thanks, Jim.
So thank you so much. And that's it for this edition of Labor Vision. We'll see you around next time.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Labor Vision. We appreciate your input and encourage your comments. Labor Vision can be seen on this channel 3 times each week: Tuesday at 7 p.m., Thursday at 8 p.m., and Saturday at 5 p.m.